On August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito's radio address signaled a historic turning point in Japanese history. The nation, still reeling from the horrors of the recent nuclear bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, held its collective breath as it awaited his message. Hirohito's declaration of Japan's unconditional surrender marked the conclusion of World War II, but it also ushered in a new set of challenges for Japanese veterans as they returned to a war-ravaged homeland. In this exploration, we delve into the post-war experiences of Japanese veterans and the myriad difficulties they encountered upon reintegration into a society grappling with the aftermath of a devastating conflict. The Pacific War and Hirohito's surrender. The Pacific War, spanning over 3 years and 8 months, exacted a devastating toll on both Japan and its soldiers. Emperor Hirohito's momentous announcement of Japan's unconditional surrender evoked a complex mix of emotions within the ranks of the Japanese military. Among soldiers, the news brought forth a perplexing blend of emotions, characterized by relief and disappointment. Relief stemmed from the end of a protracted and brutal conflict.
私も同意見である。すぐにでもアメリカに連絡を取って、我々の真意を明らかにしなければならないね。
That had left countless lives shattered and cities reduced to ruins. The war had reached a catastrophic climax with the devastating atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, leaving an indelible mark on the collective psyche of the Japanese people. However, disappointment loomed large as well. Japanese soldiers, deeply committed to their sense of duty and the ideology they had been indoctrinated with, couldn't help but feel a profound sense of failure and shame in the face of defeat. Imperial propaganda had instilled the belief that surrender was the ultimate dishonor, and that true valor lay in unwavering loyalty to the empire, even unto death. The occupation era, American control. Between 1945 and 1952, Japan underwent a profound transformation during the period of American occupation. Japanese veterans returning home found their nation's political, social, and economic landscape drastically altered. After Japan's surrender in August 1945, General Douglas MacArthur assumed control of the nation's governance as the supreme commander for the Allied powers, SCAP, ushering in a series of sweeping changes. One of the immediate consequences of this occupation was the disbandment of Japan's military apparatus, including the Imperial Japanese Army and Navy. Strict demilitarization measures were enforced, symbolically stripping Japan of its military power. In 1947, the introduction of the MacArthur Constitution marked a pivotal moment in Japan's history. This constitution renounced war as a means of resolving international disputes, established democratic principles, and granted universal suffrage. It emphasized the supremacy of civilian authority over the military and enshrined fundamental human rights. Economically, the occupation era witnessed significant reforms. Land redistribution initiatives aimed to reduce inequality by reallocating land from wealthy landowners to tenant farmers. Additionally, monopolistic business conglomerates, known as zaibatsu, were dissolved in an effort to promote economic democracy. These profound changes not only reshaped Japan's political, social, and economic structures, but also presented returning veterans with a nation vastly different from the one they had left before the war. Soldiers' post-war struggles. As Japanese veterans returned home with a mixture of relief and disappointment following the end of World War II, they found themselves facing not only the challenges of post-war reconstruction, but also a society that held complex views on their service. While relieved that the war had come to an end, these veterans encountered a deep-seated societal stigma associated with surrender, an act that had been deemed dishonorable by wartime propaganda. This stigma weighed heavily on their shoulders, even as they grappled with the physical injuries sustained during their service. The emotional scars from traumatic battlefield experiences further compounded their post-war struggles. The post-war period in Japan under American occupation brought about economic reforms and significant societal changes. However, these changes made it difficult for returning veterans to secure stable employment and housing. The devaluation of the Japanese yen added to their economic challenges, making it even harder for them to rebuild their lives. Rather than being celebrated as heroes, returning veterans were often met with ambivalence. This complex reception reflected the interplay of wartime propaganda, the demands of post-war reconstruction, and shifting societal norms. In this rapidly changing landscape, many Japanese veterans found themselves struggling to reintegrate into a society that was undergoing profound transformations in the aftermath of World War II. Detention in Siberia. A significant portion of Japanese soldiers who participated in World War II found themselves captured and detained in Siberian labor camps under the Soviet Union's jurisdiction. This period of their lives was characterized by extreme hardships and immense suffering as they grappled with the brutal Siberian climate and the relentless demands of forced labor. The Siberian winters were particularly harsh, subjecting these Japanese prisoners to bitter cold that had severe physical and psychological consequences. Inadequate shelter, clothing, and food further exacerbated their predicament, leading to a myriad of health issues and a tragically high mortality rate. Those who survived this ordeal often bore not only the physical ailments brought on by the harsh conditions, but also lifelong emotional scars from their time in captivity. The forced labor imposed upon these prisoners was nothing short of grueling and unrelenting. Their assignments included arduous tasks such as repairing bridges, paving roads, toiling in factories, and engaging in lumberjacking, all while enduring deplorable conditions. The combination of heavy labor and the unforgiving Siberian environment made their internment a true test of physical and mental endurance, return, and reintegration. Upon the conclusion of World War II, efforts were made to repatriate some of the Japanese prisoners detained in various countries, including the Soviet Union. However, the return and reintegration of these former prisoners into Japanese society proved to be a formidable challenge. Many of these returning veterans encountered difficulties in securing stable employment and housing upon their arrival in Japan. The nation was grappling with the complex burdens of post-war reconstruction, and the devaluation of the Japanese yen further compounded their economic challenges. This financial instability hindered their ability to rebuild their lives effectively. Furthermore, the stigma associated with having been taken prisoner during the war added to the challenges of reintegration. The Japanese government, under American occupation, was eager to distance itself from its militaristic past. As a result, returning veterans often faced societal disdain, as their experiences clashed with the new democratic ideals being promoted. Trials and reckoning. Following World War II, Japan underwent a period of reckoning through war crimes trials that held several of its leaders accountable for their actions during the conflict. Among the prominent figures tried was Hideki Tojo, the former Prime Minister of Japan. Facing the impending arrest, Tojo attempted suicide by shooting himself, but survived. He was subsequently arrested, tried, and found guilty of war crimes. On December 23, 1948, Hideki Tojo was sentenced to death by hanging. His request to be executed by firing squad in accordance with his military rank was disregarded, and he met his end on the gallows. Emperor Hirohito, however, emerged from the war crimes trials with his reputation relatively intact. The Allied authorities decided not to prosecute him, largely due to concerns about the potential destabilizing effects of putting the revered figurehead on trial. Instead, Hirohito retained his position as emperor and became a symbol of post-war Japan's transformation. Under the new democratic constitution, promulgated in 1947, he renounced his divine status and became a constitutional monarch with limited powers. The war crimes trials marked a crucial chapter in Japan's post-war history, demonstrating the nation's commitment to justice and accountability for those responsible for wartime atrocities while allowing Hirohito to play a role in Japan's peaceful transition to democracy. The end of World War II marked a complex and challenging period for Japan and its veterans. Their sacrifices were met with societal stigma and personal struggles. As we reflect on this chapter of history, we invite you to share your thoughts on whether Japanese war veterans were treated fairly. Subscribe to our channel for more insights into military events that have left their mark on history. Thank you for watching.